what I thought would be fun is, we believe, and I think we all believe, that technology and content are fused together forever. That without great technology, there won't be great content in the future, and without great content, you have to have technology. So you guys heard from Peter Guber, who's a good friend. We teach a course together at UCLA talking about content. And this year, I thought it'd be interesting to bring somebody. We all talk about, the ecosystem of content creators to actors all the way through. That what if we brought not only Mark Cuban, who everybody knows, has done so many things, which our host will tell you about, but someone who you've probably never seen in Silicon Valley, Brooke Burke. Some of you may have seen her win Dancing with the Stars, some of her television shows. Our host will talk about it more. Here's Brooke, and here's Mark. Thanks, guys. But what's so unique about Brooke is, as Peter was talking about, it's a celebrity who decided to take media in her own hands. Not only Twitter, not only her website, but instead of being disintermediated, control her own channel and own her own channel. So you're going to hear about that. But instead of me asking them questions, I decided that I would bring in somebody else that also is a celebrity who understands the intersection of traditional media and new media. In fact, he created a show like 12 years ago, which was called TRL, which if you think about it, it was kind of the first social media experience, right? Users called on the telephone and voted in whether they wanted in-synced video to play or not. And it really was early social media. He now has a late night show. He's a very good friend. He understands the internet and content. So Carson Daly, will you come out and interview them?
Thank you very much. Richard Rosenblatt, everybody. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here. Thank you. How are you? Rich is a fantastic friend, been a bit of a mentor for me since I've moved my late night show out to Los Angeles. And I'm a traditional media guy. Spent a lot of time working for Viacom and for NBC and in radio. And I'm passionate about my job. I created and executive produced a lot of shows at MTV. I wasn't just the host of that. Also with my late night show and things I do at NBC like New Year's Eve. And Rich has been somebody that I've met that has been really helping me sort of guide my professionalship towards the plate tectonics as mass media has shifted from traditional to new and has been an even better friend. So thank you for that, Rich. And it's great to be here at Web 2.0. And we're pretty loose here since I've never done this. So I know cocktails are coming, hopefully during this, but sounds like after it. There's microphones. We're pretty loose. So if you have some questions for Mark or Brooke, please feel free at any point in the discussion to make your way up. Let me introduce, not that they need it, my guests here. Let's start with the pretty one, Mark Cuban. He owner of the Dallas Mavericks, chairman at HDNet. They produce high-definition original programming from sports and music, entertainment. Owner of independent film production house Magnolia Pictures, also Landmark Theaters, art house chain. Obviously an entrepreneur, technologist. Dancing with the Stars loser, season 5.
Not fair.
To Mark's left, the lovely Brooke Burke, who Richard has said, well, you may know her from E! And Wild On and a bunch of the TV shows that she's done, Rockstar in Excess, etc., etc. She won the 7th season of Dancing with the Stars in front of 20 million people.
Thank you.
And I believe the two of them have a dance you were going to do?
Well, we were gonna, but we weren't quite sure how that would go over.
We were just hoping for a wardrobe malfunction. That's really all we cared about. Didn't really matter about the dance.
We thought Tech Talk would be much more exciting.
Okay, yeah, great. So it's not happening.
And we train. How many hours did we train? We had the best teacher too. Steve Wozniak was the best, but we just couldn't get it all together.
Graceful, he wasn't. Brooke, also co-CEO of Modern Mom, an incredible website, modernmom.com, and potentially more. Anyway, let's just get into the discussion. Both of you represent the intersection of entertainment and online. Mark, certainly you from more of an infrastructure, biz dev, development side. Brooke, you from more of a Hollywood content creator side. You're both, your respective areas are important to your sort of fields of business. You're passionate about both. Where did this passion begin? Brooke, let's start with you. To take this great life you had of traveling all over the world and being on TV, to focusing in the online space?
Well, it's been a journey, that's for sure. And I think passion is an understatement. When you think about Lisa Rosenblatt and myself, we've got 7 kids between us. So clearly we live and breathe this space. But for me, I think as an entertainer, to have an opportunity to work in a space where there's authenticity for me, it's something that I do, I know, and I love. It's a real different experience for me. But pertaining to social media, I'm actually experiencing it in a different way than most of you, because I feel the breaking of the wall where I can now communicate with the audience, and the audience can communicate with me, and it's a social conversation, if you will, on Modern Mom. And our user base is unique because as moms, that value of being part of a community, sharing information, growing, learning from each other, that exchange is invaluable. And as a woman and a mother, it's been my most valuable source.
That's an emotionally driven
yes.
Advantage for you, and almost a niche business, if you will. Although
and
it's
an emotional database. I mean, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And peer-to-peer and immediacy that's there. Mark, for you, it's been a little bit more on the macro level of technology and investments, and I'm sure the nuances of social media play a big part to you.
Yeah,
too.
no question. I mean, Brooke hit it on the head. One of the things that everybody in this room struggles with is what makes you successful within a social media environment. Mm-hmm. What makes you successful with any type of content, no matter how it's delivered. And within a Twitterverse, Facebook and everything, Brooke hit the nail on the head. It's about honesty and authenticity. And I think where the traditional media companies have really struggled is they have a preconceived message that they always want to put out there. Mm-hmm. Here's how I want you to perceive us, and they're always on. You know how there's people you run into, we're just talking about somebody, they're always on, and they're just not candid and honest. And like, shut up, no, I didn't say that. But if you look at people you follow on Twitter, the people are just let her rip, right? That's what's on their mind, and that's what they're going to say, and they're honest about it. And you see it in Brooke's site. These are her real experiences, and I think that's the key. And I think that's one of the reasons big media has struggled so much, because they can't be honest. You can't just lay it out there. And I think a lot of celebrities have the same way. They have this perception, their brand, that they have to stick to the brand. And I think, if you're following somebody on Twitter, you follow them as a Facebook fan, you're a friend with them, if they have a big network, you see right through it. And I think that's hurt a lot of people.
You have over 100,000 followers on Twitter. Brooke, you've got over 1.5 million.
How do you get 1.5 million?
How do you get 1.5 million?
Well, I can't answer that for you, but what I can say is I feel in
What do you mean?
I don't know why they're following, but I do know is that I'm paying attention.
You only have 3 kids, right?
Well, 4. But I'm responding, and I sort of know my mission. I'm not underestimating the value of social media. I know that YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, I know that all of those social networks are helping to drive my traffic. So what am I giving them? I'm giving them a percentage of personal information. I'm giving them, it's sort of a formula for me with Twitter, for example.
Right.
I'm giving a little bit of business. I'm maybe tweaking my URLs to see what they're responding to and what they're really going to click on. But for me, I know that it's all about driving traffic, and it's about that social bridging concept so that all of them can work hand in hand.
Wait, hold on. Last year, 2.0 was about the web meets the world. This year, the web is the world. Why is traditional media so far behind?
Well, it's a different time.
Don't quote me on that.
Well, it's a different time. I mean, traditional media will always be there. Coming from an entertainment standpoint, it's a different time now where we can interact. And we have access now to delivering a message, and it's not on someone's television for a $2 million spot. It's on their cell phone. Like, we have access very quickly in moments to reach out to the masses. Are they going to pay attention? Are they going to come back to where we want them to be? That's really the key.
It works in news. It works in short form. How does it work in long form for when you're producing HDNet content?
I mean, it's just a whole different universe. There's different elements here. When you talk about being online, obviously, you reach everybody. You reach the whole wide world. On television, it's about reaching people at the same time, right? And becoming water cooler talk, because when you put something, you can advertise or you can promote, and you can put content on YouTube, you can say something on Twitter, but people get it at their own speed, wherever they happen to be, however they consume that type of media. When we're on Dancing with the Stars...
It's 20 million people right then in 1 hour.
What's the difference between 20 million people watching you on TV or 20 million people watching you online?
Well, because it takes time, right? When we walk up there, you do your dance, she looks good, I look like an idiot, and then we still walk out afterwards and we say, call and vote for us or go online and email for us.
But we still stress that there were 20 million people paying attention at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, because how long is it going to take for you to reach 20 million people? Dan Rosenblatt was talking about, why not just go on Yahoo and reach the 500 million people? How long is it going to take for you to reach them? How long is it going to be? Because there's also the concept of lean forward and opt in. When they're watching Dancing with the Stars, live at the same time, you know, we're trying to get their votes. They're opting in and they're leaning forward to consume that all at the same time, so you know you can reach them. When you're online, it's obviously very good and you can get interactive information and you create all kinds of information you can use, but you don't know how long it's going to take. And that's a big difference. And that's why you still see people buying television and the shows, you know, some of the shows.
Traditional media will always be there. And I totally agree with you, but here's how I see it as well. You know, when we look at the followings on some of these internet spaces, the audience may be smaller, but I don't think you can compare broadcast to internet. In my opinion, it's narrow and it's specific. When I look at the Modern Mom visitors, the numbers may not be huge. You know, we have a long way to go, but I know everything about that woman. I know who she is. I know that she's the CHO. She's the domestic engineer. She's spending the dollar that's earned in her household. She's buying for herself, her family, and her husband. She's an advertiser's dream, and I know everything about her. And you know what? You can access her 24/7.
But why don't I know you know that? But why don't they know that? When NBC bought iVillage was a rich community of females. There's a demographic they were after. They purchased it before Community followed the TV show. The TV show was up there. It was Today's Show. Go to the website for downloaded whatever.
But Brooke made a really, really interesting comment about driving traffic via Twitter. Right, she's using Twitter and her comments to drive traffic to her website, which is huge on a day when you saw Google and Bing announce deals to take information from Twitter and from Facebook. The social networks driving traffic. I see it with myself, with my blog and things we do with the Mavericks or whatever. If something's Twittered, the perception is there's a unique value, and as long as you
can get you in trouble too.
Well, you know, so what if you get 5 or you get fined or with the FCC or who, you know, people just like to come after me. But the reality is a lot of us are generating more traffic to our web-based businesses and destinations via Twitter than they are via Google and traditional search methods. And I think Bing and Google are recognizing that now, and I think they're altering their businesses. So now it's almost like Google is almost traditional media in some respect, and Twitter and other social medias are even more advanced.
You're both familiar faces, you're celebrities. What is it going to take to get the celebrity crowd who's historically used to a payday? They show their faces anywhere, they get 50 grand, 100 grand. Nobody's writing that $1 million check anymore. The economy is certainly in a different place, the world is in a different place. How do you, Brooke, incentivize your friends in the business to be an active participant and, let's say, blog at Modern Mom?
Well, it's a different time. I mean, we definitely have to look at the economic situations that are before us right now, but I think it's about fully understanding the tools that are available to us right now. And yes, the dollar, it's a different time. Somebody's not giving you that huge paycheck for what you're doing tomorrow. Now it's about longevity. It's about understanding the full picture. You know, my commitment to Modern Mom, I think I'm spending more time and energy on this than I've ever spent in my life, but it's also effortless because it's something I'm passionate about. It has authenticity. I believe in it. But I also see the value in the bigger picture, and I understand the sort of model and the business plan. So I'm doing something that I'm personally invested in, but I'm also embracing the possibility as a business plan and the potential of it. And I think in the entertainment business, there is some resistance because it's not sort of this quick fix. You know, you have to really understand the journey, which, you know, you fully get. But it's you know, times are changing, and we really have to embrace that. And it's also because it's new. It's a new language.
I think
it's intimidating to a lot of people in the entertainment business. Trying to explain, I mean, Richard Rosenblatt forced me to set up a Twitter account a year ago, less than a year ago. I was like, why would I ever want to do that? Why do I want to give people the play-by-play of my personal life? Not interested. And he was like, yes, Brooke, you need to set this up. Right. And I did. And, you know, 8 months later, it's a really valuable tool for me.
But is that immediacy and that interactivity that you have with your 1.5 million Twitter community, is that more advantageous to you because you're famous and we are obsessed with celebrity fame and culture and certainly moms and dads? But what is the advantage to the landmass, to the average person?
Well, yes. I mean, it would be naive to assume that the celebrity factor doesn't play a part. But I'm also a voice of credibility. You know, my involvement now in The Doctors, which is a show that I'm starting that airs November 5th.
Forgot to mention
that. That's okay. But as a mommy expert, it's also because I'm not just tweeting about what I did with my kids and what I think. I'm retweeting valuable information. I'm responding about certain things. I'm trying to say, you know, if I'm an expert in this area of content, I want to share all sorts of information with you. I'm also going to give you some personal stuff for the hook. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to try to own this space in a sense that there's a trust factor there. And especially in the mommy space, and for Modern Mom, that's invaluable.
Mark, when do advertisers really catch hold of? Do you remember like the Bruce Willis movie Fifth Element? There was a movie where they had like everywhere individuals looked, their whole thing. So it was me walking through the mall, and it was Carson Daly, motorcycles, guns, girls, beer. Like my whole thing came down.
You telling us something?
Right. And then they started advertising to me. And I was okay with it because it was so relevant to my... As we get closer there with technology,
well, that's happening.
About that.
That's happening, and it's not so much. I mean, there's a lot of people who would like to see what they would like to see happen, where it's just personalized. You know, you've got based off of your cell phone and your cell phone number. You know, you'll be able to walk through, and they'll sense it through Bluetooth, and then the Carson Daly ad will pop up on the screen. But we're doing it in a different way, indirectly through Twitter, right? Because we're saying, okay, if Brooke Burke has particular products that she's using as a mom, and she has certain followers who know and trust Brooke for those things, Brooke kind of is that personalized walking advertisement for those products from people who trust.
And
it's not just an ad.
too, because you have to actually believe in it, because you can't just, they're trying to keep it authentic for good reasons.
And you got to also admit it, because the FTC will come after you if you don't. But yeah, it is changing, and it is becoming personalized. You know, there will be incremental technology that if you opt in, you'll be able to get recognized. And a lot of people are afraid of that, you know, and there's going to be some issues there as well. But I think the social media aspect of it, it won't be as wide open. It'll be a little bit closed into our friends, families, and social networks. But you'll see those types of personalized messages from the people you trust, and I think it's happening now.
Why are you personally so passionate about original content?
You know,
from your acquisitions, it's the art house, the 2929.
Because it's fun and it's unique, and you get to have a voice. Whether we're creating shows for HDNet, I get to convey part of my personality. Whether we're doing movies from Akil and the Bee to Good Night and Good Luck to Enron, the smartest guys in the room, to even fun stuff to We Own the Night. There's just or Man on Wire. These are movies we get to be involved with that send a message. And and then there's also the downside to it. We funded a movie called Redacted. We distributed a movie called Voices of Iraq that, a lot of political people liked or didn't like, depending on which side of the aisle they were on. But I like the idea that you can put a message out there and it affects people and it creates conversation, and that the web and all this different technology enables it. So to me, it's interesting, and it's a unique business opportunity.
If you're running ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, one of the major networks, if you, Mark Cuban, are in charge tomorrow, what's the first thing you do? What's the first major move you make? I
charge for content. A lot of people here hate that, but it's a reality.
Free is a big word around here.
Yeah, and free is okay if you know where you're going to get paid. A lot of companies get started not knowing how they're going to get paid, and they think there'll be advertising money or some type of money that comes out of nowhere somehow, some way. And they build up enough user base, they think it'll come. Now, if you get to 10 zillion users like Twitter or Facebook, you're right. But 99.9% of the websites and web businesses don't get there. And so if I'm running a major media company, I recognize, just like Brooke has recognized, that whoever my audience is, they want my content for whatever reason it is, and I just have to find the audience that's willing to pay for it. You look at what they're doing in the newspaper business. Our newspaper, the Dallas Morning News, has raised the price of the newspaper over and over and over again, and it's not as many people as used to pay for it, but it's enough now where they can start to pay their bills and enough to start to reinvest in content, and that's a good thing. So you may not reach as many people, and you may have to downsize to the right size to your audience, but getting paid and right sizing and communicating to the audience is committed to you, I think, is the way to win.
You know what I think is fascinating about original content is the technology is available to us. So take Demand Studios, through the algorithm. We have a way of knowing exactly what people want. So if I can, in a cost-effective way, produce original content and give them what they want, aren't they going to keep coming back and tell a friend, and isn't it going to grow?
But a cost-effective way and the reality of production costs are often two different things.
Yes, but I think the internet expenses to produce quality
it's a lot
content,
lower. It's a lot lower.
Just, there's no
I would love to do my New Year's Eve show
on.
Why don't I do my New Year's Eve show online?
Why don't you? And you can cram it all in 8 minutes.
I'll tell you why,
and you can
because
have an original content
because about 500,000 people could watch, and then 200,000 people would be sitting and waiting, and we're just not ready to do live events like that online.
When will we be ready, Mark?
We may never be. No, go ahead. So, no. But the reality is, doing something live, you know, YouTube can support hundreds of millions of users because it's progressive download. You get it as you get it, and you know, we kind of just deal with it. But the technology isn't there where we all can get 2 megabits or 5 megabits or 7 megabits of, you know, you don't want to see the ball come down on January 2nd.
Right.
You know,
Buffering.
Yeah, well, it's buffering, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
But you may want to see the behind the scenes the next day.
Yeah, but there's no rush to it. There's no
Yeah.
timeless value of
Doesn't
it.
have
So
to be live.
there's things that'll work well live, things that won't work well live. And, you know, look, there's all kinds of different mediums out there. There's nothing that says each one of them doesn't have a certain fit for certain types of content. I think that's what we're seeing. There's certain things that are great for television. Sports are doing great. Monday Night Football, the NFL, is having its best ratings in 20 years after everybody was condemning television as a medium. You know, Dancing with the Stars, you know, American Idol, there's still going to be places for audience, yet online video continues to grow. They're not mutually exclusive. You just have to understand what fits where.
Right. But the bottom line is that content costs.
Yep.
It costs to produce.
Yep.
So you need to pay for it.
And
somehow.
at some point, you got to have something you have to charge for. You know, Brooke creates information, creates a brand. She her and Rich, they're understanding where the money's coming from, and you work backwards from there. I think where people get stuck is they fantasize is the right word, about where all these future dollars are going to come from, and they can't get there. And then things implode, and that's why you've seen so many Web 2.0 businesses go out of business.
In traditional media, we are seeing some shifting, however, with a couple things. We saw it with Blair Witch in the film business. We saw it didn't take a leading man getting paid $40 million. It didn't take $250 million for a global marketing budget. It took the internet and something savvy for a $500 million return on that. We see it now with Paranormal Activity, with TV shows. It's broken down a little bit. There was a show that I believe 4 20-year-olds just recently all put in $1,500. It was $6,000 for a 15-minute web presentation called Boyfriend. It made its round. CAA got involved. The EP of West Wing got involved. Now they got a script deal at ABC. These are just dudes out there.
But that's the key. They got a strip deal at ABC Traditional Media, right? They use, and that's what web video has become in a larger sense. It's a proving ground for bigger things. Now, that's not to say people aren't making money with video. They are. You see all the music publishers and distributors, they're starting to do deals with YouTube now, and they're starting to get paid. But those guys are aggregators. If you've got thousands and hundreds of thousands of hours of content, you can make a boatload of money via YouTube and Google. You know, the Numa guy hasn't been seen forever. You know, you can pick your favorite.
Well, we talk about Lonely Girl.
Like, Lonely Girl.
She was so huge for a second, and
but that's all, we still talk about.
How is that possible?
We still talk about Lonely Girl. That's how bad it is, because it's kind of like the music business. There's so many one-hit wonders. It's almost impossible to follow through and make money on the net with online video. And so everybody looks to graduate to television or movies. And again, each medium is not mutually exclusive. You just have to find the right content for the right medium, and do your best to get paid.
Only in the last few years have we seen traditional media companies look at online as not just a repurposing or dumping ground for material, but a place for original content. We've seen some do it better than others. I was going back to the iVillage purchase, which became a TV show based from a rich community. But Brooke, it's hard not to look at something like Modern Mom, which makes so much sense, and you look at what a rich community that you are in the process of building, and with technology and the interaction that you have, do you have thoughts of expanding that to a bigger, broader media platform?
Well, of course. I mean, I want to build that brand. I think it's a powerful space. I mean, I think, there's a thirst for information there, and I think that we can really sort of, be that hub. But my challenge right now intellectually is to try to focus on, not to start out on the internet and end up on television. I want to sort of focus on how can we create original content and do it in an interesting enough way so that it can live and it can generate some revenue. And the possibility of developing some original content that lives and stays on the internet. My goal really isn't to introduce it on the internet and blow it up on television. I think this is unique. I think in this particular space, in this audience, the access that we have to so much information about our users, we can give them exactly what they want. We can keep them coming back for more. I'm looking at it differently. And traditional media in the entertainment industry, that's sort of their goal. Test it out here, get your data, and blow it up over here.
Well, that might be the organic nature that ends up, makes it move to that level because you're doing it with such passion on such an organic level, and it becomes a rich, viable, great piece of property that might move into, you think of Oprah, might move into that giant, it sounds like.
Well, what's really changed is, and Brooke's a perfect example, and like guys on the Mavs and different celebrities, it used to be that you worked with an advertiser to build a brand. Like, people knew who Kobe Bryant was, but it wasn't until he did all his commercials, the Sprite commercial and all these, that really took Kobe's brand to the next level. So you worked with an advertiser, you had an agent who sold an advertiser to help you build your brand as part of a marketing platform. Now, you start building your brand and then you get paid. So guys will go on Twitter, you'll get up 1.5 million users. They recognize, I think they learned from the music business that, you're not going to just get that check like you were talking about before. You've got to do the things to build your brands. And, our guys in the Mavs talk about building brands as opposed to talking about getting endorsements. And that's a big change.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left. Again, if there's questions, you can hit the mics. Otherwise, I know cocktails are coming soon. Let me end with this to both of you, since there might be some entrepreneurs in the room. What is some advice that you might have for them?
I really think it's about, for me personally, I've had an opportunity to do so many things in a decade in entertainment. And today I find myself doing something that is really synonymous to who I am. I'm passionate about this space. I know it. I understand it. I know what our visitors are looking for and wanting, and I'm able to give them that, but I'm able to do it with credibility, which I think in social media is a big, big, big factor. I think there's huge value attached to that. So, my advice is to do something that you believe in, do something that you're passionate about, master it, understand it, entertain all of the possibilities. Don't underestimate the tools that are available today, because it's a different time. Traditional media, I believe, will be there, but I'm trying to maximize all the social media opportunities and make them work hand in hand and really grow this business that I personally have a lot of faith in. So it's about authenticity for me in this space.
Yeah, you've done a great job of it, Mark.
Thank you.
My one word to entrepreneurs always is, if you're starting a business, sales cures all. There's never been a business that ever lasted that didn't have sales. You have to have revenue, and a lot of people, particularly in the technology business, forget that.
You have to have belief that there's going to be revenue. But
well, you got to have more. Belief doesn't pay the bills. You can't, and a lot of people, they believe they'll figure out a way for it to come, and by the time they figured it out, someone else has already kicked their ass.
Got to be profitable for you to step up to the plate.
Yeah, you've got to at least have a way to generate revenue, and maybe you can believe at some point where the profits will come from or how you make money off of it, but at least have a source of revenue, and then you have a chance to win. Otherwise, you've got no chance.
Good advice. Any questions? I can't see. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Question.
Sure.
Mark, you talked earlier about building brands using social media, and that traditional media was not really being able to do that because they were trying to build perceptions, but people really want an authentic voice.
Right.
And that's true for all businesses, actually, all businesses that are relying on traditional marketing. So my question to you would be, what is the advice you have on how perceptions can be built?
How perceptions can be built?
Using social media, or would you say that don't try to build perceptions because authenticity is what will finally win? So you just need to have a good product, and that's all the answer is. Don't even worry about perceptions. That wall has broken down. Yeah,
because you can tell just my personality. I worry about how people perceive me all the time. That's really a concern of mine. You have to be honest, because you look at the people you follow, the blogs you read, the information you follow online, and you can see right through the people who are plastic or the people who are trying to fool you. And and you look at the people like Brooke and others who have just taken off, and you say, why are people following them? Where did they come from? And it always comes down to people who are honest and candid and open and willing to risk pieces of themselves, like Brooke has said, to give you something that you otherwise wouldn't even think about sharing. And when you do that, people notice and they respect that and they'll pay attention and they'll come back.
That's why I say you have to believe in it, because it's a vulnerable position to be in, to open your life up to a social conversation. It's a different time. It's full circle. There's information coming back that's being addressed. It's a conversation. We didn't do that ever.
No.
It was an interview. It gets published, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but there it is. Now people are like, well, wait a minute, but how do you feel about this, or what about this, or I don't agree with you, or let me dissect you. It takes a lot of confidence. It's a very vulnerable position to be in, but if you do it with conviction and confidence, it is what it is. I'm committed to that you know, to that style with Modern Mom. I blog about everything, the good, the bad, what I did wrong, what I did right, what I'm learning, what I screwed up. But that's what gives it credibility. And controversy is not a bad thing.
People can work for. And on that note, we are out of time. Thanks very much, Brooke Burke, everybody,
so
and Mark Cuban. Thank you.
Good job, man. You did a great job.